So we want to welcome you to our session this afternoon. We're going to introduce Carmen to you a little bit, but Hector is my friend. My
Hi.
name is Jack Boat,
Okay.
and Hector has been a really important part of Súnesis. He's the guy that is behind the scenes, and he wants me to be up front, but it's time we have his picture in the on camera as well. Hector, tell us what you do in Súnesis.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Right now, we are part of the team of Súnesis, and we are trying to connect with more people and help them to understand better the Bible. We are trying to give some resources in Spanish and bringing teachers from other countries and different cultures. And right now I'm helping with in different ways. I'm helping with the slides, I'm helping with some translation, I don't know, with the staff there and, and all the logistics. And right now we have the honor to be with Carmen Imes here in Hermosillo, and it's a really good moment for us. And it's an honor.
It is an honor. So tell me a little bit about Dr. Conkel's book on Job and your part in that.
Okay, like 10 years ago, I knew about Dr. Conkel through Súnesis, and he shared with us sessions about the Pentateuch and the book of Job. And I tried to translate first with my writing in Spanish, and then Jack sent me again all complete decisions of the book of Job. And we started working in this book and try to translate and change or refresh some details in this book. And after that, we finished like 4 or 5 years ago. Then Kerygma contacted us and they released this book like 2 years ago. And the book of Job for me is really, really important. It's giving me, that book gave me a new way to understand the suffering in the life, and how God is all the time with the people, supporting him, and he's not fighting with the people, he's with the people and trying to be with the people during the chaos. And this book is in Spanish right now. It's in Amazon already.
Yeah.
And we are working in other books too, like do you want to
Sure.
say something? Okay. We are translating right now the Pentateuch too, but right now I'm adding some new details, like we are adding the story of Abraham, the story of Babel Tower, and we are trying to do the same. We are trying to help the people understand better the stories of the Bible. And for me, at the same time, trying to help others is really helping me to understand what God is talking about the Bible. And that is the reason I love to do this, and why I love Súnesis too, because God is working through Súnesis.
Okay. So just so you know, with Hector's translating, he's done a really good job, and that's really helped Súnesis as well for people to know about Súnesis. But he's the guy that likes to contact people. He contacted Carmen, and so I'm going to ask Carmen some questions.
Okay.
So Carmen, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you actually came here, and some of your story.
Yeah, so I am delighted to be here. It's really a blessing to be part of this ministry. I grew up in a Christian family in the United States. I grew up in Colorado, and from a very young age, I felt a sense of calling to be a missionary. And so while all my friends were shopping at the mall and thinking about boys, I was reading missionary biographies and hoping that someday I could be a missionary. And I was thinking somewhere in Latin America is where I would end up. So when I was in high school, I went on 2 short-term mission trips to Venezuela and Panama, and they were amazing, life-changing experiences for me. And so I made plans to go to Bible college. I went to Bible college, and I discovered while I was there that I really loved to teach. And I started to think about how can I use the gift of teaching in missions. I met a man who became my husband. We began thinking about mission work, doing mission work together, and we joined SIM, which is an interdenominational church planting mission. We moved to the Philippines and worked among Muslims there for 2.5 years, and then we moved back to our home office in North Carolina. And my husband did administrative work while I was raising our children and then starting to go to seminary. And so I finished a master's in biblical studies, and then we moved to Illinois, where I did a PhD in Old Testament at Wheaton College. And all along the way, I was hopeful that someday I would be able to connect with the global church. That I had shifted somewhere along the way from thinking I have answers to give the world to thinking I have a lot to learn from the global church. And so I've been doing a lot of reading of global scholars, Justo Gonzalez and Elsa Tamez and others, Rene Padilla, other evangelical scholars who have taught me so much. And it's just such a privilege now for me to get to contribute in some small way to this ministry. So I teach Old Testament at BIOLA University in Southern California. And I've been there for 3 years. This is my 4th year. And mostly I teach undergraduate students Old Testament, big survey classes, and I love it. I love helping people. I love especially helping Christians embrace the Old Testament, because there are so many Christians who struggle with it. They don't know, they say, oh, that I know the Bible's the Word of God, but I like the back part better. The New Testament's a little easier to process. And so I love helping Christians discover God's grace and mercy in the Old Testament and see how it's relevant for the Christian life.
Mhm. Well, I'm on the same page as you. I love teaching narrative, just because stories are so important.
They are.
And telling your story, I think, is
Yeah.
important. We have a number of books here on the table. You want to tell us a little bit about
Sure,
them, and then what
sure.
you're doing here as well, what you're going to teach?
Sure. Well, I've discovered all kinds of wonderful connections between your church here and Canada. I didn't realize there were so many Canadians in Hermosillo. So this is a book that I wrote in Canada called Bearing God's Name, Why Sinai Still Matters. And it's been translated into Spanish.
And Hector didn't do the translating on that.
No.
Not on this one, no. Portadores de su nombre, la importancia del Sinaí. So this is taking what I learned as I wrote my PhD thesis and trying to share it with the church at large. And basically, I'm arguing that if we want to understand who we are as Christians and what our job is to do in the world, we need to go back to Mount Sinai and see the covenant that God enters into with Moses and the nation of Israel. And especially, I focus in on the command not to take the Lord's name in vain, which I think we've largely misunderstood. It's not a command that's telling us primarily about how and when to say God's name, but it's much broader than that. It's about how we live as the people who bear God's name, people who belong to God. So that was my first book. About a week after it was released, I had an idea for the second book. So I was lying in bed one night and I could see the cover. Like, this looks like kind of like a tree, right? Like a tree, right? So I thought, oh, maybe we could have a book about the image of God and creation. So that would use that same kind of symbolism. So being God's image, why creation still matters, is not the topic of my doctoral work, but I felt like there are so many evangelical scholars who've done really good work on the image of God, but people in the churches are not hearing about it. And there's misunderstandings about the image of God that many people have. And so I wanted to take the work of other people and help make it accessible. So that's this book. And I've just written a third book for InterVarsity Press called Becoming God's Family, Why the Church Still Matters. And that one is arguing that we need each other if we want to experience the presence of God. God designed us to be in community with an intergenerational, multi-ethnic family, that we become family to each other when we follow Jesus. So that was a fun one to write as well.
Okay. So you do a podcast called Torah Tuesday,
Yes.
and it's about the book of Exodus, and you're writing a commentary on the book of Exodus. Tell me why Exodus. What makes you love Exodus?
I can tell you, one day I was sitting in my office, and I had just finished writing this book, and I was sitting in my office, and an email came. This was in Canada. An email came from Dr. Bill Arnold, who's the series editor for the Baker Commentary on the Old Testament series. And he said, would you be interested in writing a commentary on Exodus? And instantly I started crying. They were tears of joy. I was just amazed. I couldn't believe. I love commentaries. I love Bible commentaries because they help so much in understanding each verse of the Bible. And to be entrusted with a project that sizable on the book of Exodus was really exciting. It'll be about 750 pages, when I'm finished. Be a big fat book on Exodus. So I've been working on it for 4.5 years. I said yes because my dissertation was at Mount Sinai, and I already loved that part of Exodus, but I thought there's a lot more than just Sinai in this book, and I would love to explore the rest of it. And it's been an amazing, amazing journey. One of my mentors, when I got the invitation to write the book, said, "Oh, Carmen, you should say no. That sounds like a lot of work. You already have plenty going on in your life. You should say no." And my husband and I looked at each other, and he's like, "This is obvious. You should do it." It was obvious to me too. So I'm glad that I, in this case, didn't listen to my mentor because he was wrong. For me, it's like playing in the sandbox every day. To be able to open up the scriptures and have the space to explore every possible question that might be raised about the biblical text, to read what others have written about it, and I see so much God's power and his mercy on display in the book of Exodus. Just every chapter has new surprises for me. It's been such a joyful journey. I think many people think of the book of Exodus as a liberation story, God setting his people free from slavery. And what we often miss is that God is setting them free from serving one master and bringing them into service of another master. And Yahweh shows himself to be a vastly superior master than Pharaoh in so many ways. And when you're looking word by word in Hebrew, you sometimes see connections that get lost in translation. That compare the way Pharaoh is a ruler with the way Yahweh leads his people. So it's just been a wonderful, life-giving journey through the book. I'm in chapter 21, and I've been at it for 4.5 years. So you can do the math, how long it will take me to finish.
Okay, I was going to ask you, what was one of your biggest surprises when you looked at Exodus? Maybe you've answered it, but just think about that.
Yeah. I think one surprise, I'd never realized that the book of Exodus is 2 deliverance stories side by side. And I see it became so clear to me as I was working slowly through the text what the parallels are. But first you have the rescue of Moses, and then you have the rescue of the people of Israel. And there are many parallels between the two. And if you just think of even the broad outlines of the story, Moses is rescued from threat of death by Pharaoh in Egypt. He's placed among the reeds and rescued. He then later crosses the wilderness and ends up at Mount Sinai, where he encounters the presence of God and is commissioned for Yahweh's service. So that's the first story. And that commissioning sends him back to Egypt, and it begins the second cycle, the second story. So then you have Israel, who's under threat of death by Pharaoh, and they pass through the Sea of Reeds and are rescued by God. They cross the wilderness. They end up at Mount Sinai. They experience the presence of God. And then what should happen next? It should be, if the 2 stories are parallel, then what we would expect next is the commissioning of the people of Israel as Yahweh's representatives. They're going to be on mission. And I think just noticing the symmetry between those 2 stories helps to illuminate that the rest of the book is telling Israel how to be on mission for God. So Christians often misunderstand the law, and they think of Old Testament law as something the Jewish people had to do to get saved. But if you understand it in context of these two stories, you can see, oh, they've already been saved when they get the law. The law is showing them how to live as his people now that they've already been brought into relationship with him. So that, I think, has been the biggest surprise or takeaway from it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Last night you were speaking to the women here, and I got to listen.
You did.
It's a
You
women's
snuck
meeting,
in.
but I got to listen in. And you explained that story, and I was thinking, man, I wish I would have heard you or read your commentary, and I could have used that in my book, because I would have expanded on some of my thinking. So
it's really powerful when you see it.
So I'm really excited to read your commentary
Thank you.
when it comes out.
It's been a lot of fun. And in the meantime, anyone can go on YouTube and learn along with me, because I decided I don't want to make people wait 6 years to learn what I'm learning as I work on it. So I just started making these simple videos in my office to share. So you can already see the first 19 chapters worth of content.
Really good.
Yeah, they are very good. And you're going to teach a class here on the image of God and the name of God.
Yes.
The next 2 days. And we're just really excited to have you. And those classes will be recorded, and they will go online after we edit them.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm excited.
And we are too. Thank you so much, Carmen.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.